First, risk assessment. It's not that difficult because risk assessment, there is only one basic equation involved. This one. Risk is always calculated as multiplication between probability of failure and consequences of failure. So, in risk assessment, let's say they are heavily qualitative in nature, but as a pipeline operator, you will need to list out what are the factors or what are the items that lead to probability of failure towards your pipeline. Okay, so in one example that I've given, let's say offshore pipelines, so you will have to list down 1, 2, 3 and so on the possibilities of kind of factors that might damage your pipeline. So it can be internal corrosion, external corrosion, and if you learn a little bit more in the first topic, you will see some spanning involved, drop objects and so on and so forth. So as a pipeline operator, you have to list down the kind of probability of failure caused by what kind of damages. So that's one. But consequences of failures is about the consequences by itself. But they are limited to only 3 categories. So it's kind of not moving much. It will just always be the 3. So number 1 is safety consequences, because of course we know consequences of failure will always be number 1 as safety. And number 2, it can be in the form of economic consequences. And finally, the environmental impact. Because you have a pipeline heavily corroded, so what kind of impact that it can cause, what kind of consequences that is towards, number 1, the safety of the pipeline, the safety of the surrounding, number 2, the economic values, and number 3, to the environment. Let's say you have your pipeline being leaked. Okay, so normally we'll just list them down. So not to worry, it's kind of straightforward exercise. Let's say I give you a scenario on onshore pipeline, so you have to list them down, thinking about what is what is onshore pipeline exposed to. So you got to think a little bit more, but then you will have to list them down. But the consequences will always be the 3. You may just go into deep for each of them. Okay, so it's qualitative in nature. So because of that, the foundation of risk assessment, the foundation of this equation heavily based on these 3 kind of data. You need to have the historical experience. What has happened to the pipeline over the time from it was born, being laid, being operated. You need to have sufficient information about the history in order for you to be able to tell what are the components of the above. Also, you may have to bring in some analytical methods later on to compute. And finally, you need a special, we call it subject matter experts, SME. These are the people who know, just by looking at the pipeline, they just know what happens because they have a lot of experience in the past. So these are the kind of advice, opinions, qualitative opinions, but which is very, very important because they are the people who have been dealing with the pipe. So you will have to refer to them and you will have to see what is in the surrounding for you to be able to list down and complete finally the equation for risk. The equation for risk will be later on brought into, we call it matrix. So you will listen to them in the next subtopics. So, but for now, you got to know in order to find risk, you will have to have these 2 information, and you need this as a guidance to classify what is under POF and what is under COF.